a dimostrazione della grande unità tra paesi liberi, tra imprese private, per far sì che all'Ucraina arrivasse un concreto sostegno per ricostruirla dopo l'ingiusto e vergognoso attacco che subisce ogni giorno. Anche questa notte ci sono stati attacchi non contro le forze armate ucraine, ma contro la popolazione civile e contro la città di Kiev. Questo è veramente inaccettabile. Noi lavoriamo per la pace, vogliamo costruire la pace, vogliamo che il popolo ucraino non soffra più. Ecco perché abbiamo preparato questa conferenza con una serie di appuntamenti che hanno anticipato l'incontro di oggi. Li abbiamo svolti a Verona, li abbiamo svolti a Bruxelles. Abbiamo voluto, insomma, chiamare a raccolta tante imprese e sono lieto che tantissime abbiano accettato. Oggi sono circa 500 le imprese italiane qui presenti, a dimostrazione che il settore privato, accanto alle istituzioni, è pronto a fare molto per l'Ucraina. Difendere l'Ucraina non è una questione che riguarda solo gli ucraini, è una questione che riguarda tutti quanti noi, riguarda la democrazia. Ecco perché è importante essere protagonisti della fase della ricostruzione, appena ci auguriamo il prima possibile sia conclusa questa incredibile guerra che è iniziata in violazione di tutte le regole del diritto internazionale. Vogliamo però che la ricostruzione avvenga anche a guerra in corso, perché il popolo ucraino non può essere privato di infrastrutture fondamentali come le reti elettriche o altre fondamentali infrastrutture per procedere nella vita quotidiana e affrontare, come ha affrontato con grande coraggio il generale Inverno. Grazie alla forza del popolo ucraino, la libertà in quel paese esiste ancora. Ecco, noi vogliamo insieme dare un chiaro messaggio di amicizia, un chiaro messaggio di sostegno. L'Italia è pronta a fare la sua parte. Io ringrazio tutti quanti coloro che hanno accettato di partecipare a questo evento. Abbiamo tantissimi capi di Stato, di Governo, il Presidente della Commissione europea, leader che vengono da tutto il mondo, istituzioni finanziarie, privati. Insieme potremo fare molto, investiremo molti miliardi. Io ringrazio anche la presenza degli Stati Uniti d'America. Quindi faremo tutto ciò che è nelle nostre possibilità per garantire la libertà del popolo ucraino. Never alone. Slavo Ucraine, dichiara aperta questa conferenza. E lascio la parola al Presidente del Consiglio della Repubblica Italiana, Giorgia Meloni, per il discorso inaugurale di questo importante evento.
Dear colleagues, thank you for being here. Dear President Zelensky, dear Olona, thank you for being here. It's an honor, it's a pleasure. Allow me, as a Minister of Foreign Affairs, Antonio Tajani already did, to speak this morning in my mother tongue, for we're in Rome. Buongiorno a tutti, grazie di essere qui. È per me un onore aprire i lavori della quarta edizione della Ukraine Recovery Conference, dare il mio benvenuto a Roma al Presidente ucraino Volodymyr Zelensky, alla First Lady Olena, alla Presidente della Commissione, al Presidente del Consiglio europeo, ai Presidenti, ai Primi Ministri, tanti colleghi che sono venuti qui oggi a Roma per partecipare a questa importante iniziativa, a tutte le delegazioni che sono presenti. E voglio ringraziarli perché i numeri impressionanti di questa conferenza, 70 nazioni rappresentate, oltre 40 organizzazioni internazionali, migliaia tra aziende e realtà della società civile, raccontano meglio di qualsiasi altra iniziativa quale futuro tutti insieme vediamo per l'Ucraina e con quanta convinzione crediamo in quel futuro. Il colpo d'occhio per chi ha diciamo la possibilità di vederlo da questo palco è di straordinario impatto e chiaramente per questo voglio ancora una volta ringraziare il Ministro degli Esteri Antonio Tajani, tutta la Farnesina, tutti coloro che si sono prodigati per la riuscita di questo evento, così come voglio salutare e ringraziare gli altri ministri del governo italiano presenti, il Presidente del Senato Ignazio La Russa e i leader dei governi delle nazioni che prima di noi hanno avuto la responsabilità di organizzare questa conferenza e quelli che l'avranno dopo di noi ricevendone il testimone. Questa partecipazione così ampia, a così alto livello, trasmette al mondo un messaggio estremamente importante. Dice che ognuno di noi è qui per fare la sua parte per un obiettivo comune, che è guardare oltre l'insopportabile ingiustizia che da più di 3 anni viene inflitta al popolo ucraino e saper immaginare ora una Ucraina ricostruita, libera, prospera. E dice che intendiamo raggiungere questo scopo non solo aiutando l'Ucraina a difendersi, portando avanti ogni sforzo per arrivare alla pace come stiamo facendo, ma anche e soprattutto sapendo immaginare il dopo, interrogandoci su come ricostruire quello che è stato distrutto, strade, ponti, scuole, chiese, ospedali. È questo il messaggio che vogliamo ribadire con forza oggi. La Russia incrementa gli attacchi contro i civili, colpisce le infrastrutture indispensabili per la popolazione perché il disegno è lo stesso dall'inizio della guerra. Tentare di piegare gli ucraini con il buio, con il freddo, con la fame, con la paura. Questo piano, come altri, è fallito. È fallito in primo luogo perché tutti hanno imparato quanto gli ucraini siano molto più tenaci di ogni aspettativa ed è fallito perché la comunità internazionale si è schierata contro questo scempio assicurando l'assistenza urgente e necessaria per garantire la continuità dei servizi essenziali. Penso che dovremmo tenerne conto in futuro, dovremo tenere conto di chi ha fatto tutto ciò che poteva per impedire questa barbarie e chi invece non l'ha fatto ed è per questo che, come è scritto anche nella dichiarazione dei ministri delle finanze del G7, noi vogliamo lavorare con l'Ucraina anche per non consentire che della ricostruzione possano beneficiare anche quelle entità che hanno contribuito a finanziare la macchina da guerra russa. Abbiamo visto un video molto emozionante e la voce narrante diceva "We believe that together we can stop the darkness and build a strong future". È esattamente quello che intendiamo fare. Fermare l'oscurità, costruire un futuro forte, un futuro all'altezza di una nazione fiera, orgogliosa come è l'Ucraina, una nazione che nonostante le bombe, nonostante gli attacchi contro le infrastrutture strategiche, nonostante gli sfollati, le vittime, i bambini strappati dalle loro famiglie, continua ad avere un'economia viva, un'economia resiliente. La guerra intacca spesso la fiducia che si ha nel domani, l'abbiamo visto tante volte nella storia. In questo caso non è stato così. In questo caso il popolo ucraino ha guardato dritto negli occhi il proprio nemico e ha scelto di combattere. E non ha scelto di combattere perché ama il conflitto, ha scelto di combattere perché ama quello che sta difendendo, perché sa vedere oltre quel conflitto. È questo che ha permesso all'Ucraina di continuare a vivere, a produrre, a innovare, a cercare una luce anche nell'oscurità più profonda. E il nostro compito è aiutare l'Ucraina e lo faremo a scrivere questo nuovo capitolo della sua storia per amore di giustizia e come monito per il futuro. E l'Italia intende per questo e su questo giocare un ruolo da protagonista e può farlo, non solo per la costanza, la chiarezza con le quali fin dall'inizio si è schierata dalla parte giusta della storia, senza mai tentennare, ma anche perché il suo solido, straordinario tessuto produttivo ha tutte le carte in regola per generare un moltiplicatore di investimenti, un moltiplicatore di opportunità. Perché la sfida che abbiamo di fronte richiede certamente il massimo sforzo da parte delle nazioni, dei governi, delle istituzioni multilaterali e finanziarie, ma è una partita che noi possiamo vincere solo se riusciremo a contare su una robusta mobilitazione dei capitali privati, sullo spirito imprenditoriale delle aziende, sulla loro capacità di attrarre investimenti. L'entusiasmo, il dinamismo che le nostre imprese hanno dimostrato, stanno dimostrando, il genio e la creatività che tutto il mondo riconosce loro, dicono che il sistema Italia può fare la differenza. È un impegno che trova oggi concretezza negli accordi che alcune tra le nostre principali aziende, Leonardo, Enel, Terna, Snam, Ferrovie, ma davvero ne sto citando solamente alcune, sottoscriveranno con le omologhe aziende ucraine. Parliamo ovviamente di iniziative concrete, focalizzate su progetti strategici, capaci di disegnare un cambiamento reale, restituendo il segno di un impegno corale del nostro sistema produttivo. Un impegno che si muove ovviamente parallelamente a quello che è stato messo in campo dal governo, dalle istituzioni, nelle loro diverse articolazioni. E questa conferenza ci offre ovviamente l'opportunità di sottoscrivere numerose intese. Uno degli ambiti principali sui quali noi abbiamo voluto concentrare la nostra attenzione riguarda la creazione di nuovi strumenti, di nuovi meccanismi finanziari che possano accompagnare il lavoro delle aziende, fare da moltiplicatore. Sono per questo felice di annunciare il contributo determinante dell'Italia alla nascita di un nuovo fondo equity a livello europeo. E il messaggio che vogliamo lanciare oggi agli imprenditori è semplice. Non abbiate paura di investire, di costruire, di ricostruire in Ucraina, perché investire sulla ricostruzione dell'Ucraina non è un azzardo, è invece un investimento in una nazione che ha dimostrato più resilienza di qualsiasi altra, ma è anche un investimento sulla pace, sulla crescita economica dell'Europa intera, sulla sicurezza dei nostri cittadini. E sappiate che saremo al vostro fianco, insieme alle istituzioni finanziarie, alle realtà come SACE, Simest, Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, che sostengono l'internazionalizzazione delle imprese, per mettervi nelle condizioni migliori per poter operare, non solo sul fronte delle assicurazioni che sono necessarie per chi investe contro i rischi derivanti dal conflitto, ma anche per esplorare nuove opportunità in ambiti strategici, dall'agroindustria fino alla meccanica avanzata, all'industria chimica, ai trasporti. Investire in Ucraina è un investimento su noi stessi, perché piaccia o no quello che accade in Ucraina riguarda ciascuno di noi. Penso che per questo dobbiamo essere orgogliosi del risultato che oggi raggiungiamo tutti insieme, nazioni, organizzazioni internazionali, istituzioni finanziarie, autorità locali, settore imprenditoriale, società civile. Insieme abbiamo assunto impegni con la conferenza di oggi per oltre 10 miliardi di euro. Ma per ricostruire una nazione martoriata dalla guerra non bastano i soldi, gli ingegneri, gli architetti, gli operai. C'è bisogno di qualche cosa di più, e quel qualche cosa di più è il sentimento che il popolo ucraino più di tutti ha dimostrato di conoscere, che è l'amore di patria, l'amore per la libertà, la volontà di garantire ai propri figli un futuro di prosperità, di benessere. Senza l'amore di patria tutto quello che noi facciamo perde di senso. Non è un caso che l'Italia abbia scelto di occuparsi di alcuni dei simboli e dei luoghi che compongono il mosaico identitario della nazione ucraina. Quel luogo è Odessa e quei simboli sono la cattedrale della Trasfigurazione, la filarmonica, il Museo delle Belle Arti, gemme di un patrimonio culturale splendido che ci appartiene come europei e che come europei vogliamo proteggere perché possa essere consegnato a chi verrà dopo di noi. Caro Volodymyr, cara Olena, cari colleghi, il cammino della ricostruzione non sarà un cammino facile, sarà certo un cammino pieno di insidie, ma è anche un cammino che porta con sé incredibili opportunità. E gli italiani sanno forse meglio di chiunque altro, sanno comunque molto bene quello di cui sto parlando, perché noi siamo quel popolo che sulle macerie della Seconda Guerra Mondiale ha costruito il miracolo economico degli anni 60. Anche la nostra allora era una nazione distrutta, che affrontava difficoltà enormi, eppure ce l'ha fatta, si è rialzata con determinazione, con orgoglio, con operosità, è diventata la potenza economica e industriale che oggi tutti conoscono. E mi piace pensare che questa conferenza possa essere il punto di partenza per il miracolo economico dell'Ucraina e costruiremo quel miracolo insieme, per voi, per noi, perché ogni scuola, ogni ospedale, ogni campanile che ricostruiremo sarà un pezzo di noi stessi che avremo ricostruito, un pezzo d'Europa che riconsegneremo alla storia e ai nostri figli. Vi ringrazio e buona conferenza.
It is now our privilege to welcome His Excellency Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine.
Thank you so much. Dear friends, dear Georgia, thank you very much for your kind words, very strong words, for your support. Thank you for warmly hosting this important meeting for Ukraine, for Ukrainians. Dear Ursula, Antonio, Friedrich, Peter, Donald, Eddie, Pedro, Dick, Rosen, Petri, Christian, Kyriakos, Miloiko, all the leaders and all the participants of the conference and all who stand with Ukraine today. Thank you so much. Thank you all for your attention to Ukraine, to the needs of our people, first of all, and to our shared responsibility to do everything necessary to protect life. Russia has also prepared for this meeting. Just last night they launched another massive attack on Ukraine, mainly targeting our capital, Kyiv. The attack involved Russian, Iranian Shahid drones. These drones have been heavily upgraded to cause more destruction and to be harder to shoot down. Ukrainians now face attacks by hundreds of these drones every single night. And this is pure terrorism. The night before last, they launched over 700 drones and missiles. Last night, nearly 400. And they try to do this as often as possible. And this is exactly what Putin wants, for our people to suffer, to flee Ukraine, and for homes, schools, for life itself to be destroyed everywhere, not just near the front lines. Remember, just a year ago, many people thought Russia wanted real peace. real talks and a ceasefire. Moscow was sending those signals, and it was all part of their propaganda, trying to say that Ukraine didn't want peace. But we said back then there must be pressure on Russia because it was not preparing for peace. And now everyone sees that Putin has rejected every peace proposal and is escalating the violence. Just last night, in Kiev alone, sadly, 2 people were killed and 16 were injured. A medical lab was completely destroyed, residential buildings, a shopping center, a veterinary clinic, and basic city infrastructure were all damaged. And that was with many of the drones and missiles being shut down. Still, some made it through. And this is what we must focus on first. We must stop Russian drones and missiles. And this means more air defense supplies and more investments in interceptor drones, air defense systems, and of course missiles. And I urge all our partners, increase your investments. When Russia increases its attacks, we cannot have a shortage of funding for drone production. More than 30 countries and hundreds of companies are represented at the conference today. And we must reach a point where Ukraine's air defense and drone sector is supported by over 30 countries and backed by hundreds of companies, not only from Ukraine, but also from Europe, the United States, and beyond. Please speak to our team for details. Ukraine has some of the world's most advanced drone technologies for both offensive and defensive, and we are ready to share this expertise and these technologies with our partners. Ukraine needs investment, you need skills, you need technology, and everything we are building now to protect Ukraine will also help protect you. Secondly, I'm grateful to all countries that are part of the coalition supporting Ukraine's defense. We've created effective, really effective coalitions, effective drone coalition, and you can see how drones help us hold the life, hold front line and strike Russian military infrastructure deep inside Russia. We also have a strong aviation coalition. Thank you to all its members. Ukraine has received and is building up modern combat aviation. This is a huge help. Aircraft to F-16s and Mirages this quickly. Thank you to everyone who helped. And I also want to highlight the coalition to return our Ukrainian children. Children abducted by Russia. And this is a global effort involving countries from Italy to Canada. And thank you to each one. Just yesterday, I spoke with about this work, and it already is. I'll discuss this with and other leaders as well. And we must explore every to This is a very serious threat, and we must stand against it together. Just like these coalitions are working, we now need to build a coalition for recovery. Let this be the moment we start it. We know what Russia has destroyed, and we know what it will take to rebuild Ukraine. Ukrainian people. Which is needed, a coalition with clear leadership, countries and companies lead and bring others with them. And we also need a clear recovery plan. Approach is needed, a coalition with clear leadership, countries and companies that can lead and bring others with them. And we also need a clear recovery plan. Think of the role the Marshall Plan played in rebuilding and transforming Europe. That's why Europe has enjoyed peace and economic growth for so many decades. And now we have real opportunity to spark a new wave of progress. We need a Marshall Plan-style approach, and we should develop it together. Rebuilding Ukraine is not just about our country. It's also about your countries, your companies, your technology, your jobs. The way we rebuild our country can also modernize your infrastructure and industries. And I ask you to support the Recovery Coalition and help define specific financing mechanisms. We must clearly agree that frozen Russian assets should go toward Ukraine's recovery. Not only the income from these assets, but the assets themselves must be used and much more actively than they are now to help save lives. And we also need a clear system for reconstruction, a special recovery fund, and financing at different levels for Ukraine's national budget and for local communities. And we are very, very open to working with any business that can support our strengths, production, logistics, and of course, rebuilding. And let me emphasize one more thing. In this joint recovery project, we will only welcome true partners. Those who are not helping Russia continuing this war. Only friends are invited to be a part of Ukraine's economic and technological recovery. And one last thing. We are already preparing for the next winter. And we've already gone through 3 winters during this full-scale war. And of course, first of all, thank you to everyone who helped us then. Thank you. And we need to keep working together to get through the next winter as well. And this can only be done as a shared task. And let's use this conference to move forward with that. I thank Norway for already, by the way, supporting us. Thank you to the Netherlands for your help. Thanks Germany. Thanks Ursula, Antonio. Thanks so much for the EU's continued support in helping Ukraine face energy challenges, real challenges. And we must keep making sure our people are protected. I also thank Italy, more than 500 companies, Georgia. Thank you so much, and to your team. More than 500 companies are represented here at the conference. Around 200 agreements are ready to be signed with a total value of over 10 billion euros. All of these must be fully implemented. And please, let's also focus on energy. Putin has only 2 real allies: terror and winter. And we must respond to both. Thank you to everyone who is helping. And let today's meetings bring real results that matter to people and are visible in their lives. And every day, all of us must stay focused. All of us must keep up the pressure on Russia. All of us must keep working for defense so that we can bring a real ceasefire as soon as possible, that our drones go to our shared arsenals, that our technologies serve recovery and real life, that we create and start implementing a reliable recovery plan, that our children and our people return home to Ukraine. Let's do everything we can. Let's do everything we can for real peace as soon as possible. Just peace. Slava Ukraini!
We now welcome Her Excellency Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission.
Prime Minister, dear Georgia, President Zelensky, dear Volodymyr, dearest Olena, what a pleasure that you came along too. Thank you very much for being here. Fellow leaders, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I remember very well the first Ukraine Recovery Conference 3 years ago. It was just a few months after Russia unleashed destruction and bloodshed on a scale not seen since the Second World War. I remember the pain of the Ukrainian people. But even more vividly, I remember just how quickly they picked themselves up and began to rebuild. In the liberated towns of Irpin and Bucha, and with restored homes, schools and hospitals. And Europe has been there at your side from day one on, and Europe will be at your side as long as it takes. Today, we gather here in this eternal city to show our enduring commitment to Ukraine. Our resolve is unflinching, our support unwavering, because we will always be at Ukraine's side, and you can count on us. Now more than ever, Ukraine can count on Europe. Our solidarity continues on all fronts, militarily, financially, and politically. And let me start with the military side. Ukraine's military has done what many said was impossible. They reached holding back the Russians and crippling their navy and their bomber fleet. This is impressive. Ukraine is the frontier of military innovation. But Russia's arms race continues. This is a war from Russia of resources and competing defense systems, as much as it is a war of values. So we must continue to invest in Ukraine's defense and tech primacy. Our Defense Readiness 2030 plan will be key. It will make available the necessary resources and fiscal space to deliver a surge in military capabilities. And it will boost investment in Ukraine's defense industry. In addition, supporting Ukraine will also allow member states to reach their NATO target of 3.5 plus 1.5% of GDP. All told, Over 800 billion euros can be mobilized, so there is sufficient finance. But we also need to organize to ensure that the needs of the member states and Ukraine can be matched. And this is why we will be working through the SAFE instrument to create a mechanism to bring this together. As you said, Volodymyr, Ukraine has cutting-edge weapon systems, and Ukraine can deliver really fast and at low cost. This is precisely what we need in the European Union. But, as you said, Volodymyr, Ukraine's defense industry is only operating at 60% of capacity. Now, our member states can take their safe loans and procure directly from Ukraine's defense industry. For our member states, it's high quality, fast and cheap. For Ukraine, it's both crucial revenues, but also the opportunity to strengthen its defense industrial base. To my second point, since the full-scale invasion, Europe has been and will stay Ukraine's largest donor, with almost 165 billion euros of support. And this year alone, we will cover 84% of external financing needed. As part of this support, I can announce €1 billion payment in macro-financial support, dear Volodymyr. I can also announce a payment of more than €3 billion from the Ukraine facility. And these guarantees and grants that we are signing here today, you said it, Georgia, and you said it, Volodymyr, it's outstanding. They are set to unlock €10 billion in investment for growth, recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine. And we will ensure that Ukraine is supported until 2028 and beyond, when the new European budget kicks in. The new partnership with Ukraine will also play a key role in boosting private sector investment. That will be critical to reconstruction. And we will be able to build on strong foundations. Volodymyr, I listened very carefully. You said we need a special reconstruction fund. I am particularly pleased to announce today the European Flagship Fund for the Reconstruction of Ukraine, the largest equity fund globally to support reconstruction. It will, together with the private sector, kickstart investment in energy, transport, critical raw materials, dual-use industries. We are literally taking a stake in Ukraine's future by leveraging public money to bring large-scale private sector's investments and help the rebuild of the country. And I'm particularly pleased, and I think from the bottom of my heart, that we are building this together with Italy, Germany, France, Poland, and the European Investment Bank. Thank you so much for your commitment. And I trust others will be eager to join. The people of Ukraine are ready to drive their country's economy into the future. The time to invest is now. Finally, on political support. Under relentless fire, Ukraine is passing reform after reform. That's impressive. Ukraine stands ready to proceed with the next step on the accession path. Ukraine is delivering on its reforms. Now we must too, because the accession process is based on merits, and Ukraine merits moving forward. The Commission is very clear. Ukraine is ready to open Cluster 1, the fundamentals cluster. Now we have to act to move forward for millions of Ukrainians, soldiers, teachers, doctors, farmers, you name it, for Ukrainians from all walks of life. And for them, the future has two flags: the flags of Ukraine and the flags of Europe. This recovery conference is all about bringing Ukraine and its future to Europe. And Ukraine's future is in Europe. Let's make it happen together. Slava Ukraini, long live Europe.
Please welcome now His Excellency Friedrich Merz, Federal Chancellor of
Dear Prime Minister, dear Georgia, dear Volodymyr, dear Elena, friends
of Germany.
Dear Prime Minister, dear Georgia, dear Volodymyr, dear Elena, Excellencies, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, friends of Ukraine. History knows many different examples of post-war reconstruction. One of the most successful was the recovery of Western Europe, and particularly of my country, Germany, after World War II. People still remember the so-called Wirtschaftswunder, the miracle of our economy. I don't mean to draw any misleading historical comparisons, but some of the recipes that were applied back then can still serve us when we focus at Ukraine's recovery today. The first one is, to rebuild a war-torn economy, it takes strong partners and international support. And Ukraine has strong international partners, all of us gathered here today. Today, Ukraine has dozens of partners around the entire world. The European Union, the G7, the IMF, and of course, all of us that have come together today for the Ukraine Recovery Conference in Rome. Since last year's conference in Berlin, we have made some remarkable progress. 200,000 micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises have been supported through the SME Alliance. 275,000 Ukrainians have received training as reconstruction professionals since the establishment of the Skills Alliance. 400 new partnerships with Ukrainian municipalities have been established, which is extremely important because reconstruction takes place at local level. In more than 80 companies, donor governments and civil society organizations have joined forces to empower women in their role in reconstruction. Now, Germany is the largest donor to the Ukraine Energy Support Fund and will continue to support the stabilization and reconstruction of Ukraine's energy system. Together with international partners, we are developing the Ukrainian Business Development Fund, modeled on Germany's so-called KfW, Kreditanstalt für Wiederaufbau, which financed Germany's reconstruction after World War II. Volodymyr, you mentioned the Marshall Fund already. When you visited me in Berlin in May, a couple of weeks ago, we agreed to take the defense industrial cooperation between our two countries to a higher level. These measures underline our confidence in Ukraine's future. And here is a second lever able to turn Ukraine's reconstruction into the economic miracle we all hope to see. That lever is Ukraine's successful European integration. To be very clear on this, we fully support Ukraine on its path to EU membership. This includes, and you know that, Volodymyr, reforms like strengthening the rule of law or fighting corruption. And we are encouraging our Ukrainian friends to keep advancing along this path, which is the path leading to freedom and prosperity within the European Union. Let me, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, mention a third quintessential lever for economic recovery. Economic growth requires freedom for the private sector to flourish. This is particularly important in the case of Ukraine because the enormous cost of reconstruction cannot be financed through public funds alone. This is why you, Volodymyr, and I, when we met in Berlin a few weeks ago, met German companies which are active in Ukraine. What I can report back from that meeting is the enormous interest of private businesses in participating in Ukraine's reconstruction. With the Business Advisory Council initiated last year in Berlin, we have an excellent tool to engaging the private sector in the reconstruction efforts. And I'd like to thank Christian Bruch, CEO of Siemens Energy, for his commitment to the Council's establishment, and I look forward to its work under the new leadership of Barbara Cimino doing this work in this Council. Many thanks for your commitment. Now today I'm pleased that, and that was already mentioned by you, Ursula, we can announce the launch of the European Flagship Fund for the reconstruction of Ukraine, together with the European Union, together with the EU Commission, the European Investment Bank, with Italy, Poland and France. And I myself and the German government, we fully support its goal to mobilize large volumes of private investment for the reconstruction of Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, the ultimate prerequisite for Ukraine's lasting recovery is simply peace. Ukraine is committed to achieving a just peace. But while Ukraine has agreed to an immediate ceasefire without any preconditions, Russia keeps sending daily proof that it wants to continue or even intensify its brutal war of aggression. Thousands of drones and missiles destroying civilian infrastructure, killing and terrorizing Ukrainian men, women and children. This has to end. It therefore remains our political duty to increase pressure on Russia in order to change President Putin's calculus and bring him to the negotiating table. And may I be frank from this place as well. We are preparing package number 18 within the European Union of sanctions against Russia. There is only one member state missing to agree on that. I urgently ask Slovakia and its Prime Minister to give up the resistance and to make the way free for package number 18 within the European Union. So let me end by reassuring you, Volodymyr, again, and our Ukrainian friends, that our support for your country is unwavering. Thanks to the Italian government and to you, Georgia, for hosting this important conference. Thanks to all of you for standing with Ukraine. In finalizing, I have two messages. The one goes to Moscow and to President Putin. The message is quite simple. We will not give up. And dear friends, my second message goes to Washington, D.C. and to President Donald Trump. Stay with us and stay with the Europeans. We are on the same page. And we are looking for a stable political order in this world. We are both, the Americans and the Europeans, are part of with us. Stay with us on this side and on this page of our common history. Many thanks, dear colleagues and friends.
We are pleased to invite His Excellency Donald Tusk, Prime Minister of Poland.
Dear Presidents and Prime Ministers, dear Georgia, dear Volodymyr and Olena, dear friends of Ukraine, there will be no recovery without victory. We are meeting here today to discuss how to help Ukraine not only to survive, but to win and to rise again. Not only in material terms, but also spiritually and socially. Ukraine's victory is a matter of security for the whole of Europe. And victory means territorial integrity, sovereignty, and, to put it simply, a just and lasting peace. Victory of Ukraine is not against other countries. It's a victory of our values and our common security. Recovery is more than just about rebuilding walls. It means returning to normal life. Recovery is a set of parallel processes: physical reconstruction, European integration, and modernization, all of them taking place together and at the same time. I deeply believe that we all now understand that this is not a war just about Ukraine. This is a war about Europe and for Europe, or perhaps even about the world and for the world as we know it. Because fault lines are appearing across the whole globe. This is a war between civilization and barbarism. My country, Poland, has already done a lot for Ukraine. The Polish society was mobilized from the very first moments of Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. This is not the time to list everything we did, but I think it's enough to mention one figure: 25 billion euros. This is what Poland has already spent in response to Russia's aggression in humanitarian aid, refugee support, and military assistance. Poland will play a special role in the recovery process. My government has developed a coherent model of support. First, investment in our infrastructure, roads, railways, and logistics, which mainly serves to help Ukraine. Second, connectivity. The Polish corridors through which 90% of military and humanitarian aid is currently flowing to Ukraine. The same routes will carry goods for the reconstruction tomorrow. Third, trade. Today, 30% of EU exports to Ukraine is coming from Poland. 30%. And trade leads to investment. Polish and Ukrainian businesses are already benefiting from the special insurance and financing instruments that have drawn a huge interest from our partners. Transport, trade, investment. This is the triangle we are building on. Because rebuilding Ukraine also means connecting it to Europe. This is the deeper meaning of connectivity. We are laying the foundation for Ukraine's future EU membership. From the perspective of Poland and many Central European states, a free and sovereign Ukraine means a more secure European Union. But Ukraine is not only a country in need. It is also a country that inspires, that teaches us courage, yes, resilience, certainly, but also innovation, the kind of technology that is already changing the battlefield: drones, autonomous systems, cyber defense. Ukraine is testing all of them already today. And NATO is learning from Ukraine and must do so even more in order to strengthen its deterrence. Poland is ready and willing to cooperate in this field, because what Ukraine is learning today may save us all tomorrow. This is why I must stress: we are at a defining moment, now, today. What we are doing now will determine where we stand 1 year from now. Will the guns pointed at Ukraine fall silent by the time we meet again during the next recovery conference? And so, from Rome, one of the cradles of our civilization, I appeal to the entire democratic world. Our consciences cannot rest while Putin attacks civilians night after night. Ending this war must be our common cause. Now is the time to begin a new chapter, the chapter of Ukraine's recovery in peace. Thank you.
We are now honored to hear a special address by Her Excellency Olena Zelenska, First Lady of Ukraine.
Thank you so much. It's a great honor to participate here today. So, dear attendees, esteemed head of government, I would like to thank, first of all, the Italian government and Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni for organizing this and hosting this year conference here in Italy. Thank you for your genuine concern and for your commitment, because today we're discussing not only the fate of Ukraine, but the fate of the entire region. I want to tell something about the destruction, because destruction is not only a physical concept, it is also a social one, manifesting as a hardship, security threats and mental distress. It can spread far beyond the battlefield and affect everyone. And it already has. For all these recent months, precisely as long as Russia has been stalling negotiations, the aggressor has been shelling Ukraine with particular cruelty night after night. And last night, unfortunately, was no exception. In June alone, can you imagine? In June alone, Russia launched more than 330 missiles, alongside nearly 80 ballistic ones, over 5,000 combat drones, and 5,000 aerial bombs at Ukrainian cities. The scale of destruction is difficult to describe. Yet those among our international partners who recently visited Kyiv and saw apartment buildings shattered by ballistic strikes say that they have never seen anything like this. A gaping void where floors once stood, where people once lived. In 2 residential buildings in the capital destroyed this June, more than 30 lives were lost. And nothing will bring back these people, these parents, these children, these families, their unique lives taken by the aggressor. Today I want to emphasize this above all else. What matters most in rebuilding any country is its people. Buildings without people, enterprises without people, a country without people, that is not a country, it's a memorial. In Ukraine, we have learned this through pain, and we would not wish such suffering on anyone. And so, amid fierce defense, we have made saving lives our top priority, in every sense, physical, social, and mental. Our principle is restore the individual, and they will restore everything else. Only in that order. Thank you. Today, our experts will share the details of how this principle is being implemented across the recovery agenda. Allow me to briefly highlight a few areas in which I am personally involved. Mental health recovery. When a building is destroyed, what remains is not only rubble and graves. There are also hundreds of people living grief, relatives, friends, and many, many more living in anxiety and fear, knowing they could be next. According to the latest sociological studies, more than 80% of Ukrainians are living in a chronic state of stress and emotional strain. We have many internet memes about this, sad ones, of course. The kind where after yet another shelling, people write in work chats, survived, so I'm going to go to work today. Our economy continues to function thanks to millions of people who go to work after spending their nights in basements. But in those moments, the main emotions they carry are fatigue, tension, and despair. Already in the first months of the Russian invasion, Ukraine responded to this challenge with the All-Ukrainian Mental Health Program, How Are You?, which I patronize. It is a full support system in which all ministers, regions, and communities are involved and work in coordination. It is a network of services where various mental health service providers know about one another, because only in this way can a person avoid getting lost in their search for help. The key principle, mental health in all sectors and all policies, is now enshrined in law, signaling that change is irreversible. Right now, it is critically important for Ukraine not to lose momentum and to continue backing changes in state policies in this area. Much effort is also being directed towards scaling up to ensure that mental health services reach every community, and this requires support from partners. The key actor in this field is the Coordination Center of Mental Health under the Cabinet of the Ministers of Ukraine. Its representatives are part of the Ukrainian delegation here, and they are ready to respond to any of your requests and questions. When people arrive at hospitals after another Russian strike, they suffer severe injuries, blast wounds, burns, crushed limbs. Saving their lives alone is not enough. We must help them live fully again. Therefore, today, we have 11,000 rehabilitation specialists working across the country, 7 times more than in 2022. In just the last year and a half, they have helped 600,000 Ukrainians. This is also the result of state policy. Our specialists have the opportunity to learn from colleagues in the world's best clinics, for which we are deeply grateful to those clinics and to your countries. But our own expertise has also grown to the point where we can share it. For this purpose, Ukraine has launched a medical partnership that direct international cooperation between medical institutions. I invite you to join and thank those who have already become part of it. Education. You may have seen the headlines. Ukraine now has fully functioning underground schools. It's true. We have already built 15 underground schools out of 200 planned. Russia deliberately targets our educational institutions, having already destroyed 394 facilities and damaged over 3,500. I want to especially thank every international partner who helps us provide education to children and welcome the International Alliance supporting the transformation of early childhood education in Ukraine, First Steps Forward, which will be established on the sidelines of the URC today. In the early months of our defense, when Ukraine made the important decision to preserve education for our children, we also made another crucial choice: to continue the school nutrition reform. We are probably the only country implementing such a reform during wartime. But precisely in times like this, a quality school lunch becomes more than just a meal. It is also an expression of care, a form of social protection, and a support for the entire family. I have the honor of patronizing this project, a project about more than just food, about dignity and opportunities. The reform team has already modernized over 1,000 school kitchens, and more than 6,000 school cooks have been trained to prepare meals according to updated health standards. Every day, more than 1.5 million Ukrainian children receive free hot meals at school. Our healthy eating campaign has reached over 7 million Ukrainians because we believe that by cultivating healthy habits from childhood, we shape a healthy nation. Our goal is that by 2027, every child has daily access to high-quality, healthy food. To achieve this, Ukraine still needs 6,000 modernized kitchen facilities and 12,000 trained cooks. I invite you all those who feel connected to this to join us. And I also invite everyone to literally taste the reform. For the second year in a row, we present in a school meal show kitchen here at the URC. You're welcome. Barrier-free Ukraine is another humanitarian reform that Ukraine is carrying out under fire. I initiated it 5 years ago, but it has become especially relevant at this moment. It concerns everyone, the wounded, the disabled, the elderly, children, caregivers, and those suffering psychological trauma, because it is about equality, in mobility, in opportunity, even in communication. Over these years, we have introduced European standards of accessibility in construction and digital space. Each ministry leads flagship projects to enhance access to education, work, and mobility. You will hear more about this in detail today. But I want to say, war is not just a slowdown. It pushes up backward. It is always regression. So we need to defend not only against attack, but also to hold back regression. As Lewis Carroll said, it takes all the running you can do to stay the same place. Literally, even new strike increases the need for inclusive services. That is why we value your help so much. Thank you. Our special expectations today is the signing of Ukraine's associated memberships in the ESF+. The gender panel at the, access to this EU structural fund will allow us to create new initiatives for education and employment and to update labor legislation. Now, with your support, we are taking a step toward a social Europe where people, their rights, security, and well-being are at the center. Gender equality. This panel will address the issue of women as their rights and needs present a distinct challenge. Today in Ukraine, 2/3 of women with young children cannot return to work due to the current state of childcare infrastructure. At the same time, women are entering fields once dominated by men in manufacturing, logistics, and the military. Most of our social workers and entrepreneurs are women. They represent a powerful, active force that needs the right conditions to thrive. The gender panel at the URC will showcase real examples of how women, including veterans, entrepreneurs, and local leaders, are already leading recovery efforts. It is crucial that the Alliance of Countries and Organizations for Gender-Responsive and Inclusive Recovery continues to support them and helps make their efforts visible, influential, and effective. Equal opportunities, education, mental health, rehabilitation, and fulfilling childhood, all these topics I have just mentioned are also at the heart of the Olena Zelenska Foundation's work. This is another way to help Ukraine recover on a human level by supporting real people, and in our case, especially children. I'll be glad to meet with you at our stand here and share more details. Italian politician Alcide De Gasperi, who once stood against fascism, said that the future is built by the hands of those who are free from hesitation. Ukrainians facing constant threats to their lives simply have no time for hesitation. We set aside all hesitation until peaceful times. And now we act. This, by the way, is one of the mental practices that helps us to hold on. We must act, even when scared, even when it's dangerous, seeing other people, their needs, and helping them. This is the best way to get distracted from fears and anxiety, tested by Ukraine. So I ask you, in all your important and valuable projects, to put people first, those who will work with it, use it, and live with it. Just as our computer browser asks us to verify that we are not robots, we must ask ourselves, is what we do humane? I'm confident that if everyone follows the rule, people first, the world will become a better place for each of us, no matter which country we live in. Thank you.
We thank Madam Zelenska. Now the first plenary session is over. Please remain seated. In a few minutes, the second session will start.
Italy and Prime Minister Mелони for organizing this conference to show that we remain united in our determination. And thank you, Prime Minister Tusk, for hosting the next conference in 2026. We hope that by then this nightmare will be over. Spain's support has been solid and continued. Since February 2022, we have committed military support worth close to 3 billion euros. We have allocated 110 million euros in humanitarian action, from building safe havens for children and teachers to supporting mobile maternity units, and we have channeled 840 million euros in financial aid. Offering safe environments to displaced Ukrainians has been also a top priority for my government. Spain hosts the fourth largest displaced community in the European Union with over 245 Ukrainians. They will soon have the Casa Ucrania at their service in the province of Alicante. But the war continues, and our support is more necessary than ever. Today I will like to reiterate my country's support to Ukraine with two announcements. First, we will open a new office for the reconstruction of Ukraine in the capital of Spain, in Madrid, to support Spain's engagement in building a better future for all Ukrainians. It will help leverage official financial instruments, ensure institutional coordination, and enable regular visits to Ukraine by private sector actors that can prove instrumental in the reconstruction and modernization efforts. And second, in the coming months, we will convene a new meeting of the Spain-Ukraine Joint Commission in Madrid, together with the Business Forum, to enable business-to-business ties. The Spanish companies are at the forefront in areas such as health, energy, water, management, railways, infrastructure, agri-food, digitalization, and defense. Encouraging their participation in the reconstruction of Ukraine will tighten our bilateral relationship and nurture European stability and security. Dear colleagues, I would like to finish my statement with a message of hope. As in the recent UN conference in Seville, this meeting in Rome, the city of the European treaties and the Rome Statute, shows that multilateralism is not just relevant, it is indispensable. Europe has suffered the most atrocious wars, but we're living proof that peace and international law are the only enduring path to stability and progress. That is why I am confident that Ukraine will write a new chapter of peace, security, and prosperity on the continent, and will ultimately complete its journey towards full membership in the European Union. Thank you very much.
We proceed with the message from His Excellency Denis Shmyhal, Prime Minister of Ukraine, joining us remotely.
Distinguished partners and colleagues, Excellencies, dear Presidents and Prime Ministers, dear heads of European institutions, esteemed leaders of international organizations and financial institutions, dear friends, dear partners, ladies and gentlemen. We have had another very difficult night today. Russians' ballistic missiles and drones killed and injured civilians. But we stand. We stand because of our defenders and because of your unwavering support. Thank you for this. Today, we gathered for the 4th Ukraine Recovery Conference, and our shared goal is to rebuild and modernize Ukraine, overcome the consequences of a devastating war, and secure prosperity for our country, for Europe, and for the entire free world. I thank all of you who have stood with Ukraine and the Ukrainian people in solidarity, side by side, through every stage of this struggle. My sincere appreciation goes to our generous host, our Italian friends, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani. Thank you. Thank you, President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, for your solidarity. And thank you for your strong announcement in support of Ukraine. Grateful to President of European Parliament, Roberta Metsola, and President of European Council, Antonio Costa, for your continued support. We value the unwavering commitment of every EU member country. From the first hours of Russia's full-scale invasion, we have felt your leadership in defending the values of freedom and democracy. We are especially thankful to the United States, our strategic partner, the US President and the US Congress for bipartisan support. Together, we have overcome many challenges. Together, we will continue on the path to a just peace and successful recovery. Our gratitude goes to the leaders and people of the G7 countries, Your comprehensive support and every single initiative have made Ukraine stronger. To all our partners, our neighbors and nations from across the globe, thank you for standing with Ukraine during these difficult years. Despite the geographic distance, we are united in defending our common future. Special thanks to the international financial institutions. Thanks to your support, Ukraine has maintained financial stability and has the resources to defend itself and meet critical needs. We also recognize Ukrainian and international businesses for believing in our people, paying taxes, investing and working for our shared future. And of course, I thank the Ukrainian team, which works around the clock with our partners, quickly, effectively, and with unwavering commitment, for victory, for recovery, for growth. We all believe in the success of this ambitious reconstruction, the largest of its kind in Europe since the end of World War II. Dear partners, dear friends, this conference is a clear testament to our unwavering unity, and I'm confident that this unity will remain. It must also translate into further joint actions, including continued and growing pressure on Russia to cut off the aggressor from the resources and means to wage this war. Sanctions imposed on the Russian Federation are working, but not yet enough. They must be further strengthened, especially against the energy and banking sector, the shadow fleet, and through the introduction of secondary sanctions, we continue to insist on the full confiscation of frozen Russian state assets. These resources must be used for Ukraine's recovery. It will be fair and it will be effective. Russia must pay for its crimes. It will pay in hard currency and in individual accountability before a special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine. Dear friends, I am confident this gathering will be another important step toward Ukraine's successful recovery, toward global security, and toward the prosperity of the people of Europe and beyond. We are united in defense, we are united in recovery, we share common values, common goals, and a common great future. Thank you for your attention. Slava Ukraini!
We are now very pleased to welcome His Excellency Antonio Costa, President of the European Council.
Heads of states and governments, Excellencies, Caro Antonio, dear friends, thank you for organizing this conference and for placing Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction at the heart of the international agenda. I would like to focus on 4 pillars that must shape Ukraine's path forward: peace, defense, reconstruction, and accession to the European Union. First, peace. Dear Volodymyr, let me commend your leadership in calling for an unconditional ceasefire and mobilizing all diplomatic efforts toward a just and sustainable peace. Unfortunately, Russia has responded only with more strikes, more suffering, more unjustifiable death. This must stop. From day one, the European Union has stood and will continue to stand firmly by your side to ensure a just and lasting peace. We are doing this by increasing pressure on Russia through sanctions, by strengthening Ukraine's defense, and by deploying every diplomatic tool at our disposal to restore peace in Europe. Second, defense. Supporting Ukraine's defense is not only about military strength, it's about sovereignty and the foundation of economic recovery. Ukraine's defense sector is helping to stimulate local production, create jobs, and drive innovation, strengthening the country's economy and increasing resilience. As Ukraine rebuilds, integrating these technological advances will bolster national development and help embedded Ukraine and broader European industrial and defense value chains. This is a meaningful contribution to building the Europe of defense, a path shared by all member states. As President of the European Council, I will continue to encourage member states to increase investments in Ukraine's defense sector, including through the SAFE program, which offers concrete instruments for this effort. Third, reconstruction. Ukraine's reconstruction will require a massive sustained effort from the international community, one that matches the scale of destruction and the urgency of the moment. As Ursula already announced, Ukraine can count with the European Union. But it must also be rooted in justice. Russia must be held accountable for the devastation it has caused. The aggressor must bear responsibility for rebuilding what is sought to destroy. Reconstruction is not only about buildings, it is about people and starts at local level. Local communities, municipalities, mayors, civil society and the media are essential actors in this process. As a former mayor, I know how powerful civil society can be in meeting immediate needs, driving community-led solutions and advancing the reforms necessary for the European Union accession. The European Union, including our cities, regions and citizens, stands with you, and we will continue working with the Ukrainian people for a resilient, democratic and peaceful future. Fourth, and finally, Ukraine's accession to the European Union. Enlargement is the European Union's most strategic geopolitical investment in peace, in security and in prosperity. For Ukraine, accession is a commitment to democratic values, to rule of law, good governance and peaceful and stable future. At our most recent meeting, European Union leaders acknowledged the remarkable progress Ukraine has made on reforms, even under the most difficult conditions. The Commission's assessment is clear. Ukraine has fulfilled all the necessary steps to open the first cluster of accession negotiations. Negotiations must now move forward. Ukraine's accession process will continue with the next steps guided by merit, momentum and the mutual commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, Ukraine's future lies in the European Union. The European Union stands with Ukraine for peace, for defense, for reconstruction and all along the path of accession. Together, we can ensure that Ukraine not only recovers